The roar of 18 wheels on a lonely highway was the music of her life. Ava Daniels, just 22, was known as the trucker girl in her small town. She wasn't flashy, didn't seek attention, and never thought she needed to prove herself to anyone. But the world had a cruel way of testing the quiet ones, especially those who didn't fit into society's expectations. That test came one stormy evening at a truck stop diner. Ava walked in, her boots wet from the rain, her long braid hanging down her back, and her tired eyes searching only for a cup of hot coffee before another overnight haul. She was used to stares. People often underestimated her, thinking trucking was a man's job. But most of the time, she ignored it. That night, though, a group of rough young men sitting in the corner had other plans. They snickered when she passed their table. One whispered loud enough for her to hear. "Look at her, trying to play tough like she belongs out there with the real drivers." Ava clenched her jaw but kept walking. She'd faced comments like that before. But the men weren't done. When she stepped back outside to check on her rig, one of them followed. Before she could react, she felt a harsh yank on her braid. Pain shot through her scalp as she stumbled back. "You think you're tough, huh? Little girl driving a big truck," he sneered, dragging her by her hair. His friends crowded around, laughing, forming a circle like jackals waiting for the show. For a split second, Ava's heart raced with fear. Memories of every insult, every time someone had called her weak, every lonely night on the road, everything boiled inside her. But Ava Daniels wasn't built to break. She was built to fight back. With lightning speed, she twisted, pulling her head forward to loosen his grip. Her boot came up hard, slamming into his knee. The men howled, stumbling backward. Before the others could react, Ava planted her stance, solid, unshakable, like her 18-wheeler on the asphalt. "You boys picked the wrong girl," she growled, her voice low and steady. One lunged at her, but Ava sidestepped, slamming her elbow into his ribs. Another grabbed for her shoulder, and she swung her fist up, catching him across the jaw. The circle that had once been full of laughter was now full of shock. They hadn't expected resistance, especially not from someone they thought was just a girl. The first attacker limped forward again, rage in his eyes, but Ava stood tall, glaring at him with a fire that sent a chill down his spine. "Try it again," she warned, her fists clenched. "And I'll make sure you can't walk back to your truck." Silence fell. The men exchanged uncertain glances. The laughter was gone, replaced with the heavy weight of fear. One by one, they backed away, muttering curses under their breath but never daring to step closer. Within seconds, they scattered into the night, sent running scared by the very girl they thought was weak. Ava stood there, chest heaving, rain. The rain pounded against the windshield of Ava Daniels' 18-wheeler as she pulled into the truck stop diner. She had been driving for hours, carrying a long-haul shipment across state lines. Most people her age were in college classrooms or working small-town jobs. But Ava had chosen the road. She had grown up watching her late father drive rigs, and after his sudden passing, she stepped into his boots. The open highway was lonely, but it gave her peace, until people reminded her she didn't belong. Inside the diner, the smell of fried food and old coffee filled the air. Ava tugged her jacket tighter and kept her eyes low, just wanting a moment of warmth. But she could feel it, the stares, the snickers. A group of 4 young men in greasy jackets sat in the corner booth, their eyes locked on her. She'd seen their type before, arrogant, restless, itching to prove themselves. "Hey sweetheart," one of them called, loud enough for the whole place to hear. "You sure you're in the right place? This ain't no playground for little girls." The diner erupted in nervous chuckles. Ava said nothing. She'd learned to let words roll off her back like rain on steel. But tonight, their laughter dug deeper. She quietly paid for her coffee and stepped outside, determined not to give them the satisfaction of seeing her break. But the storm wasn't over. As she walked past the rows of trucks, she heard footsteps behind her. Before she could turn, a vicious yank pulled her head back, her braid clenched in the fist of one of the men. She gasped, her scalp burning. "Thought you could ignore us," the men sneered, dragging her backward. His buddies surrounded her, forming a cruel circle. The cold rain stung her face as they laughed, taunting, "Show us how tough you are, trucker girl." For a moment, Ava froze. Fear clawed at her chest. She thought of her mother at home, always worrying about her safety. She thought of her father, whose picture she kept taped to her dashboard. And then, she thought of every mile she had driven alone, every insult swallowed, every challenge survived. Something snapped inside her. In one fluid motion, Ava ducked forward, ripping her hair from his grip. Her boot drove hard into his kneecap, sending him stumbling with a howl. The laughter stopped. Shock filled their faces. Another lunged at her, grabbing for her jacket. She twisted, slamming her elbow into his ribs with a force that knocked the wind out of him. He collapsed to his knees, gasping. "Get her," one of them shouted, but his own voice cracked with fear. The third man charged, swinging wildly, but Ava moved like the road had taught her, steady, focused, unflinching. She ducked low, drove her fist upward into his jaw, and watched him stagger back into the mud. The leader, clutching his knee, tried to bluff, "You're dead, girl. You don't know who you're messing with." Ava stood tall, rain dripping down her face, her fists clenched at her sides. Her voice cut through the NI.